Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what is going on? This is Jeff Hartman, senior editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with you for a very victorious post-game show where the Steelers come from behind in dramatic fashion and beat the Buffalo Bills on the road in Orchard Park, 23-16. What a game. We have a lot to talk about, but first let me introduce the rest of the crew. Bryan Anthony Davis, what's going on, Bryan?
Where am I? I have no idea. Are there IVs in my arm? Am I in a coma? Did I just see what I just saw? Did the Pittsburgh Steelers just beat the Buffalo Bills? Were they supposed to? No, nobody said they were. I even didn't think they'd do it. Woo!
All right, let's go to Dave Schofield. What's up, Dave?
Hey, I'm flying high. I will say this. There were many things about this game that I was wrong, many things about this game that I was right in how it played out. But the biggest thing is this was the first time the Pittsburgh Steelers won a game where they were 6.5-point underdogs or more since December 2nd, 2012 in Baltimore. This is a big one. This really is a big one.
Absolutely. And Sean Manahan gave us $2 right out of the gate. Thank you, Sean. He said, how about them Steelers? Absolutely. And I do have to say that I was the only person, I believe, on the staff to pick the Steelers to win this game. I said 27-24 on a Boswell kick. Wasn't the correct score, but I said take the Steelers, especially getting 6.5. I thought they'd keep it close no matter what. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, what I was going to say is I picked that I thought the Bills would score 17 points. They scored 16. Okay. And I said the only question would be if the Steelers can get enough points to win or if they don't. And I just didn't have the confidence. But you know what? Special teams came through.
Yep.
There it was.
There you go. And Tom Muir gives us $2, says, 1-0, boys, here we go. Steelers, here we go. The fan base should be ecstatic. It wasn't pretty, but they make it count when it matters the most. Wes Hickok gives us $5, says paying my debts. Shocked UG3 stuck around. What a play. Technically, he was the beneficiary of the Miles Killebrew play, but he was the one that picked up the football, ran it in for the special teams touchdown. So, all right, let's keep going. We have some more super chats. We'll get these out of the way. First, Brandon Reese gives us $4.99. Thank you very much. His growing pains, but our offense will be tough by week 4. The offense, I think, will improve. We're going to talk about that a lot, but the defense, goodness gracious. I mean, how good were they? I mean, that was remarkable. Let's do knee-jerk reactions first, as we typically do. I want to apologize first, by the way. Our post-game podcasts were absolutely awful in the preseason, mainly because they were. I'm going to call a spade, mainly because I think they were late, and then also because it's preseason. But this is a regular season.
Well, it was late at night. You're right.
I know, exactly what I meant. All right, so, Bryan, knee-jerk reaction. Go ahead. What was it?
As the podcast producer, I will say, no, Jeff was wrong because they were all great. In fact, go back and listen to them again and give us the downloads.
Don't do it.
Yeah. My knee-jerk reaction to this is, wow, this team continues to know something that we don't know. When the Colin Cowards say that this team is 8-9, when the Bryan Anthony Davises say that, hey, I think that this is a special team, but they're going to lose 30-24. This team knew. This team knew what they could do. Even, I don't think they were panicking in the first half. And that's a special thing because Ben Roethlisberger said something very poignant this week. He said, there are going to be growing pains. This offense is not going to just storm out right off the bat. It's going to take some time. That makes me wonder is if that's the product of the preseason. You said our podcasts weren't very good in the preseason. The Steelers offense was not very good in the preseason either. There's growing pains to go all along. So I always say when we get to the regular season, week 1 always scares me because they never come out of the gate strong. They finish strong. Again, we've got to deal with the tale of two halves. That's fine as long as it was the right half.
Absolutely. Let's go to Dave. What was your knee-jerk reaction, Dave?
My knee-jerk reaction comes right back to what I said as my closing thoughts on the Steelers preview. And that was, even if you had the Steelers picked to win 12 games this year, this was probably a game that you did not have them pegged to win. Jeff picks the Steelers every week because that's what he does. And if he didn't, I would be furious. He has to. He has to pick them. If he doesn't, I'm throwing down the headphones and I'm walking out. Okay, if Jeff ever doesn't pick the Steelers,
they'd be facing Jeff. Dave, they'd be facing the Taliban, and Jeff would say, the Steelers are going to pull this one out.
Yeah, exactly. The Steelers were going to win. But if you go back, even at the beginning of the season, none of us, when we did game by game predictions, none of us had them winning this game. Hardly anyone had them winning this game, even if you had the most optimism for the season, because this was a tough game. And I said, but if the Steelers pull it off, look out. Look out. And that's what I have to say now. Look out. The defense is for real. We'll break that down a little bit more. The offense, yes, it looked awful at halftime. I even put a tweet out there that said, Steelers has some cap space. Can they sign someone for the offensive line during halftime?
You sound like Michael Beck.
Exactly. Yeah, I think he retweeted me and responded and everything. I did that thinking like Michael Beck. So, but if you also realize that, do you realize that other than taking a knee to end the game, the Steelers scored on every possession in the second half. They had no points at halftime and scored on every possession in the second half. That's what you want to see an improvement. Let's get into it. I'm ready to go. What's your knee-jerk reaction, Jeff?
Well, Joel Campbell gave us $2 in a super chat and he said, "Want to know, baby, player of the game." Joel, stay tuned. We're going to get to that for sure. Steel Dog 88 gave us $5. Said, for all the NFL analysts out there, they can, you know what? Yeah, I think we know what you're talking about. And honestly, my knee-jerk reaction wasn't so much about the game itself. It was tremendous. It was the fan base, man. My mentions were blowing up, but this team sucks. This team's awful at halftime. Like I kept on saying, like no one said this season was going to be easy. No one said this game was going to be easy. I was the one that I did several podcasts. I felt like talking about this is going to be a rough road. Like it's not going to be a smooth sailing. Think back to 2014, 2015, when things just offensively were just like clicking on all cylinders. It's not going to be that. If you're someone that can't stomach a game like today, then you might want to turn in your black and gold terrible towel. Like seriously, and just say, because it's going to be a rough road. It's going to be moments like this. So keep that in mind. Our super chats are going berserk right now. Let's get to all these. Wilson PAVA said, Apava, I'm not sure. Sorry. 740 said Sack Streak. Sack Streak 74.
Oh,
continues.
That's why. Yep, I got you.
Offense Canada looks promising. We have big guys in the Ben Najee Chase on offense. TJ deserves his money, and Tomlin is all over the D. Good day. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Shield 91, $5. Shout out to Jeff and BTSC for keeping me updated on this game. I might not have seen it, but I sure felt it. Here we go, Steelers. He was traveling, and he told me, I said, I'll do my best. Hopefully we pulled through for you. Tyler W. gives us $5. Our outside linebacker group, better? Whoa. Bud Dupree, who? Yes, that's what I'm going to say.
They got spanked today.
They did. Kyle Smith, $5 is dancing on the NFL experts' opinions and picks. Cam Sutton was entirely worth the money. I love this game. Even the TD was close coverage. We are going to dive into all these. And my gosh, there's another one. Mm-hmm. David Poe, I'm assuming is how you say it, $5. Pass rush with Alualu, Hayward, Watt, Highsmith, Ingram were outstanding. This Steelers defense, if they can duplicate this over the course of 17 games, and that requires a lot. It requires health and all that stuff. It might be one of the best defenses the Steelers have ever put on the field. And I'm going to say that if they can stay healthy, I believe that 100%. Captain Underpants gives us $2. Let's freaking go. 1-0 feels so good. Absolutely, it does. It feels better than last year. Last year they went on Monday Night Football against the Giants. It was kind of like a meh performance. No, there's no preseason. No one knew what to expect from Ben Roethlisberger. This game, completely different. We're going to break it down. Oops, sorry. One at a time. Let's go to the box score, and we're going to do this the way we used to. Grades. We're going to grade by position group. But first, Dave Dixon gives us $5. Offense did enough to win. The turnover battle, defense, and special teams were huge. You have to, takes all three phases. So let's go to the Steelers quarterback, as we always start. Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger, 18 of 32. Those attempts, 32. 188 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks, 2 sacks, 11 for 11 yards, and 83.9 rating. Bryan, what grade do you give BTR?
Let me go ahead and give BTR a B-. The grades are always tough for me. You know that. So we'll call him B-TR today, just for the fact that there were some things in the first half that just looked ugly. But the way he adjusted in the second half, and I think a lot of people were about to go nuts when he threw the interception that it wasn't, and it was pointed out by the national telecast on CBS that he saw the flag, he just threw that ball because he knew he could. And if that's true, that's awesome. I also heard something from the national analyst that say that Ben likes to throw bad passes in practice just to make sure that his players could go and get that. And I was thinking that's classic A+ BTR, because he's going to say, yeah, I threw that ball bad on purpose. So that's perfect, Ben. But the thing about it, in the second half, after my friends called me, you were talking about looking at the waiver wire for an offensive lineman. My friends were trading for Jimmy Garoppolo, by the way, at halftime. And I'm like, guys, relax on that part. But here's what I was thinking with Ben. He became classic Ben. He ran the ball on a scramble for a very key play. He threw that beautiful ball to Deontay Johnson. He threw some bad stuff, but ultimately he was the charge that led that game on offense, and it was Ben alone. So I'm going to just, with less than 200 yards, no interceptions, that's a big deal. I'm still going to be in that B range, so B-.
All right, let's get to this first. William Weathersby gives us 5 Canuck bucks. Says, really, though, ESPN and every guy on Serious Mad Dog channels, I am a listener of that channel, so I know who you're talking about, said we would lose. They were kissing Josh Allen's derriere.
Took us.
That way. Took us. He said, I can't wait to see their response. Yeah, you probably won't hear much about it. It didn't go with their narrative, so they're probably not going to talk about the Steelers too much. But Dave, grade BTR's performance, would you please?
Okay, Bryan took the grade right out of my mouth with a B-. I just want to say this. 12 of 20, 130 yards, 1 touchdown, no sacks, 95.8 passer rating in the second half.
Say those numbers again, please.
12 of 20,
okay.
130 yards, 1 touchdown, no sacks, 95.8 rating.
That's
second half stats.
That's important.
Yeah.
Very good. So you gave B- as well?
Yeah, because, I mean, the first half wasn't good for the offense, period.
Yeah.
So,
54 total yards.
But he came back and, like I said, led them on a scoring drive every time they had the ball, unless they're in victory formation.
I'm going to go with a C+. I just felt that he was inaccurate at times. It felt like in the first half he was not comfortable with the fact that he doesn't have that line that's going to be able to give him that nice cushy pocket, and at least not yet anyways. In the second half, he looked more comfortable on the move. He looked more comfortable in the setting that he was in. It's going to take time. Like, that's what we said. I'm going to go C+, though. I thought Ben could have been better, especially there were some throws where you're just kind of like, man, that was just a bad throw. I think 1 third down to Deontay Johnson where he overthrew him by it looked like 5 to 10 yards. Even the pass to Najee Harris down in the red zone, I know that Najee kind of didn't keep his feet moving. It looked really awkward, but it was a high throw. We expect better from Ben, so I'm going to hold him to that standard. So I'm going to keep it at a C+. Let's get to some super chats. Ivan Doria gives us, is that a euro? Is that a euro? Is it 2 euros? What is that? Anyways, he said, thanks for all the great content. # here we go. Thank you very much, Ivan. We appreciate it. Snowman gives us $5. His defense saved our butts, and the offensive finally woke up. Go Steelers. Absolutely. Thank you for the tip, Snowman. We appreciate it. Let's go to the running game. Najee Harris finishes 16 of 45, 2.8 yard average. No touchdowns. Chase Claypool 1 for 25 yards. They end up rushing for 75 yards on 21 carries for a 3.6 yard average. Bryan Anthony Davis grade the running game.
I want to correct something, and it's not a correction. I just want to add a footnote to that whole Najee box score. If you look at the stat in the second half, he was over 4 yards per carry in the second half.
You're taking my thunder, Bryan. Come on, that's my thing.
Yell at Hartman, man. He goes to you
Why
first.
Are you yelling at me? What did I do?
He goes to me first.
Yeah.
Okay, actually Najee was good.
Yeah.
Dave will tell you more about
What's the grade?
Give us the grade.
I still have to give him a C, but a C with an upside.
Okay. Dave, now remember, this is the running game, not just Najee Harris, so keep that in mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go C+. Liked the end around, but just to know, just like I did with Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger, Najee Harris in the second half had 9 carries for 37 yards with a long of 18, which was an average of 4.1. The offense was definitely a tale of 2 halves, so you can't ignore the first half. You've got to play a complete game. But I really like what they did in the second half. So it was improved. And I mean, a lot of the woes with him running, it's not all him. It also has to go with the run blocking.
Absolutely. The running game, I'm going to give them a D+. I'm going to give them some harsher grades today. Just you expected more. This was supposed to be the aggressive Adrian Clem offensive line, and they were getting pushed around in the first half. The second half, they kind of got their footing. Again, I'm grading performance, not so much where they're going to be. This isn't a damning performance for the rest of the season. Conor Eddy gives us 4.90.
And what he said was,
you
what can Steelers do to get Najee Harris going? Line isn't great. Maybe some counters, misdirection plays. I wanted to answer this one anyway.
Go ahead, Dave.
Because what I had said, I'm pretty sure it was in the preview. Maybe it was in one of the shows I do, that if the line is bad, they need to be able to get him the ball out in space with maybe some passes. I got to watch this game with my dad, and I said to him that I had said this before, and I said the problem is the passes to Najee have not been good. So it was really difficult to get him in those open spaces in the passing game when a couple of those opportunities, the pass was offline.
Right. Okay, so let's go but while we're talking about the running game, let's also talk about the offensive line's run blocking. We do like to label the offensive line in two different facets. One is a run blocker, one is a pass protector. Let's talk about the run blocking part of the offensive line right now. Bryan, if you're giving a grade to the O-line in terms of run blocking, what are you giving them?
I'll go ahead and give them a C-. But I really like the fact that they pulled it together in the second half. Najee's problems in the beginning were less Najee and more the offensive line. As they gel, they're getting better. But rough start for them, but a lot of hope in the second half.
Dave, grading the offensive line from a run blocking standpoint.
From a run blocking standpoint, I'm going to go with a D+. And the reason they get a plus is because they improved some in the second half, but it's still the weak spot, not of this offense, but of this team, is the offensive line.
I'm going to go with a D, just a straight up D. I thought that it could have been better. Again, this was the part of the offensive line we thought they would improve upon, not so much because everyone was talking about this offseason, but because we thought if they're going to struggle anywhere, it's going to be in pass protection. So I thought it was a D. We'll give it a straight up D. Mark Davison of the Touchdown Under podcast, he gives us $5 dingo and says, "Good morning, gents. What's the best way to celebrate? Chicken and waffles or steak and eggs? Here we go, Steelers. Let's go steak and eggs for me. 10 out of 10 times. Like, I'm not a chicken and waffles guy, just so we're clear."
Absolutely.
I want to cross answer that, and I want to say chicken and steak.
No eggs at all, just chicken and
just
steak.
Chicken and steak.
Very good. Sean Manahan said $2 Bills sold out against the run. They did. They dared the Steelers to throw the ball, and the Steelers struggled with it.
And throw it beyond the line of scrimmage. Well,
it was also the fact that the Steelers couldn't. We're going to talk about this here in a second. The Steelers didn't trust. I don't think Ben did either. I don't think Matt Canada did either. Trust the Steelers to pass protect Ben. Everyone's like, play action, throw it down the field. They felt like they couldn't protect him well enough to do that, in my opinion, especially in the first half. In the second half, they got creative. I think that's worth it noting. And let me bring this up. Gabriel Golden gave us $5 and no comment.
Here it is.
So, you got it.
Yep.
Perfect. TJ Watt, as long as the O-line keeps improving, the offense gets the new playbook down as the season goes along, this is going to be a great season. Thank you for the tip, Gabriel. We appreciate it. Geez, Dave, get off. Take it off, Dave.
I did, and you brought it back up. I just thought,
let's go to the receiving core now. Juju Smith-Schuster leads with 4 for 52. Chase Claypool 3 for 45. Deontay Johnson 5 for 36 for a nifty touchdown. Freiermuth 1 for 24. Ebron 1 for 19. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players targeted, and they all had a reception. What do you guys think of the receiving core? Bryan, go ahead.
I want to give this receiving core an A-. I tell you what, they didn't do anything to go crazy and break the game wide open, but they didn't have the opportunities. But I don't know what the stats are on drops, but I don't recall a drop. If there was one, it was knocked out. I don't know how that stat actually works out because everybody differs on that, but there was nothing egregious. The Deontay Johnson catch was absolutely spectacular. If the Steelers did misconnect, it was probably more or less on Ben at that point than it was on the receivers. when they had to step up with a big catch, the stuff that Juju did, not spectacular in the box score, but Juju did some amazing things. Chase Claypool with that fantastic catch, Freiermuth, Ebron, all with big catches in this game. I like what the receivers and the pass catchers did in this game.
All right, Dave, go ahead. Your opportunity to grade the pass catchers.
Yeah, I'm going A. I mean, the only thing that's keeping it from an A plus is, I wouldn't call that one a drop that some people might complain about with Deontay Johnson. He was reaching up and it hit his fingertips. That would have been a really big, it was towards the sideline, towards the screen, we'll say that, if you're watching on TV. So that one would have been really tough. There was a couple times that they didn't seem on the same page early in the game. Don't know if that was on the receiver or on Ben. Other than that, you're right. They were coming down with the big plays. And, I mean, the catch by Deontay to have that focus, the Chase Claypool one. I mean, even James Washington comes in when Deontay Johnson goes out and they throw it to him right away. And what did he get on that play? Like 9 yards when they threw it to him behind the line of scrimmage. It was fantastic. I'm not complaining about the receivers at all.
So what was your grade?
A.
Okay. I'm going to give them an A as well. When the Steelers needed to move the ball, it through the air, it was, like you said, it was never the receiver's fault. And it just was great to see when they started connecting, like when Pat Freiermuth had the big catch and run, Ebron with a huge third down conversion, Juju had some great conversions. Those are the plays you have to have. And so it was a great outing, I thought, by the pass catchers. They were spreading the love around, which is what we love to see. Steel Dog 88 gives us $2. His thoughts on JC, talking about JC Hassenauer coming in for Kendrick Green for a few plays. Do you all see that? I know, Dave, you did.
Yeah.
What did you all think of that? Did you think it was an injury?
No, I think I saw one report where they're saying it seemed like Green was getting a little bit too chippy with some of the Bills. I think he played one play to start the second half, and then JC came in, and then Green was back out there later. Someone reported on Twitter, it might have been that he was getting a little bit pushy and shovey with some of the players, and they just wanted to maybe calm him down. I don't know if that was true or not, but whatever it was, it seemed to work all right.
Brian, do you agree with that?
Absolutely, I do. If he is, a young guy with a hot head could really cost you. And so if that's a coach's move by saying, hey, we like what you're doing, but simmer down there, buddy, bring in a Haas and then put him back in. You learn from that because, all right, I've got another chance. Yeah, I've got to calm my stuff down.
He's getting frustrated. If you listen to his interviews, he gets frustrated. And sometimes he wants to lash out a little bit. Tom Muir gives us $5. Says receivers B+, DJ and Ben weren't on the same page most of the game. Everyone else was ready to play. I agree with that. All right, let's go to the offensive line in terms of pass protection. Brian, go ahead and give a grade in that regard.
You know what? I will go ahead and give let's just go with a C on that, because they held up for most of the game, but Ben was getting knocked around. That fumble, that was purely on Dan Moore, but Dan Moore really calmed down after that. I don't think he gave anything else up after that. So let's go ahead and just give him a solid C because there was enough time for Ben to get those passes to those receivers. So I'm just going to go down the middle.
All right, Dave, what about you?
Yeah, I'm not going to give them as high of a grade. I'm going to probably go with the D because they weren't getting the job done enough to do what they really wanted to do, if you know what I mean. Like Jeff was saying, can you run the play action? No, you didn't really have time. The Steelers adapted to what the line was able to do. And I'm going to tell you this, the line should have adapted more because if they were paying one bit of attention during the game to see that the only way that the Bills players were having any kind of pass blocking was to hold every player on every play and make them throw the flag because they get flagged for 5 or 6 times holding. It could have been every pass play.
Double digit.
It could have been every pass play. So my thing is if they're going to let you hold, if they're going to let the other team hold, if that's what you got to do. But that, I mean, I'm kind of saying a little bit tongue in cheek, but my point is the Steelers had to adjust for the lack of pass blocking. And I don't want that to be the case. I want the pass blocking to do better, but I do believe that this is a group that, although, like I said, they're the weakest link on the team, in my opinion, it's not that that there's no chance of improvement.
And they only surrendered 2 sacks.
Yeah.
And 2 sacks for 11. Ben was flushed out of the pocket on more than one occasion. He had some great plays getting rid of the ball. I'm going to give him a D. But Dan Moore looked like a turnstile in the first half a couple times. I mean, this is his first time probably going against legitimate starters in the NFL for 4 quarters. And it looked like it. A lot of those rookies I felt looked like it. I thought that Najee Harris had several, hey, welcome to the NFL. Dave, what's that?
They started 5 rookies, not counting Presley Harvin, because Trey Norwood technically got the start on defense because he was out there the first snap. Freiermuth was out there the first snap. They started not just 5 rookies, 5 draft picks, not counting their 7th-round punter.
Trey Norwood essentially starting at the 7th-round pick. Keep that in mind.
And look what the defense did with it. Well, hold on. We're not the defense yet. Sorry.
Well, but unless he sucks, like that's amazing. But I want to finish up the offensive side of this podcast, which is part 1, with someone I think we have to talk about, and that's because it was his first time calling plays in the NFL, and that's Matt Canada. So we saw some second half adjustments. Clearly, you saw offensive production, not just point totals, because remember, special teams contributed a touchdown. Bryan, in the first time seeing Matt Canada's offense, and we know this is not what it's going to look like for the rest of the season, you don't have to grade him. I just want to get your thoughts on Matt Canada's first game as a play caller. Go ahead.
One thing I think that Matt Canada does very well, even in his entire career, he adjusts to the situation very well. And he did that at North Carolina State, at Pitt, everywhere he's been, Maryland. He takes the personnel that he has, and he's very good at analyzing the situation and rolling with the punches, something that Randy Land never really did. Randy Land had a game plan, and he stuck with it come hell or high water because he had to. Matt Canada is good enough to be able to do that. So I thought with what you saw in the second half was definitely adjustments made. They looked like a different team when they came out in the second half. That's coaching to me. That's what you're getting with Matt Canada. We said on Fact or Fiction yesterday that, hey, you are not going to get fireworks right off the bat. It's going to take a while to light that spark. It did, but I could see an inferno coming, my friends.
Hope you're right. Dave, what were your thoughts on Matt Canada?
Yeah, Bryan hit the nail on the head, as did you. It was the halftime adjustments that we haven't seen on offense for 3 years. The whole notion, other than just Ben taking over, that it didn't seem, they were still running their offense, but just enough to succeed. Jeffrey Benedict, I think, was who just said it in the live chat or on the Slack chat. Somewhere he said it. That's like, when's the last time the Steelers won the adjustment battle at halftime? But they did here. Think about it. They were down 10-0 and won by, they were down 10 and won by 7. That's a 17-point swing in the second half. But the offense looked better, but it wasn't like, oh, we're just going to put Ben in shotgun and have him dump off every time. It wasn't something that was simple, that they just did the same thing over and over because the other team couldn't stop it. They were still doing other things with the offense, but adjusted in a way to where they could be more successful.
I agree. I thought Matt Canada did a good job. I thought that he was someone that. Well, quick question, Dave, and this is, I don't know if you know the answer to the NFL. Okay. Does a coach that calls plays in the booth, do they get down to the locker room at halftime, or do they stay there?
In the NFL,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
No idea. I couldn't tell you.
Brian, do you know?
I would imagine that they don't.
In high school, they do.
I know in high school, but that's like a walk down the steps and you're in the locker room.
So that's all I don't have any NFL coaching experience. I only have high school coaching experience.
Let's just put it this way. Do you remember, you might not remember this, but back in the, with the Immaculate Reception, Myron Cope was in the elevator, and so was Art Rooney, because Art Rooney went down to console them because it takes that long to get downstairs. Yeah. So, I would imagine that being in the NFL, it's a long way down and you only have 15 minutes for halftime. I would imagine 12. I'm sorry. I would imagine that you don't get back up.
Yeah, I was banking on the 15, realized it was 12, and missed the first couple plays of the second half.
I don't want to lose a super chat here. George gives us $2, says all 3 phases of the game gets us the win. Absolutely, all 3 phases contributed. It wasn't always pretty. We'll put it that way. And then Occam's Ox. I'm sorry. Gives us $1.99. Said Kevin Colbert, A+. Yes, indeed. There's still a lot to be deciphered there, but
especially
absolutely.
On defense, we got to talk about that.
Speaking of defense, we're going to talk about that right after this break. If you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook, don't go anywhere because we're not going anywhere. If you're listening on the audio platform, head over to part 2 where we'll talk about the defense and special teams. Be right back. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to the second part of the Steelers postgame podcast. I'm Jeff Hartman, senior editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Joining me as always, Dave Schofield, editor at BTSC, and Bryan Anthony Davis, our podcast producer. We are continuing to go through our grading. We're giving out grades as we always do in the postgame. Before we do this, I want to talk about the inactive list. Robert Spillane. Dave, go ahead and explain it. Just go ahead and explain what happened.
Well,
because I think it matters. I think this matters to talk about now. Okay.
Well, and not only that, I had several players that I thought I picked all the correct positions for the inactive list. I just wasn't sure which players it would be in those positions. And I actually had an article ready to go. I had names in there so I could delete other names. I'm like, I'm going to pick the most notable name and put it as the headline. So I get the inactives list. I put the headline on there. Buddy Johnson, inactive for the Steelers in week one, leads inactives for Steelers in week one. Only to find out 9 minutes later, when the Steelers publish it, it's not Buddy Johnson. It's Robert Spillane. And I'm like, nah, they always give it to Labriola to report, and he reports it. Apparently, from the time they told him, hey, this is what it's going to be, send it out at 11:30, to the time they actually had to turn it in is when they had to make the call with Robert Spillane having a shin injury in pregame warmups. So therefore, Spillane ended up out, and Buddy Johnson ended up in. So that's why it wasn't Robert Spillane. Some people, as soon as they saw it, they're like, oh, what's this mean to the depth chart? No, it was an injury thing. So they went with it. Don't know where that would have put Spillane on special teams. I thought of it right off the bat on that kickoff return, if that would have been different. But who knows? But that's how that went down.
All right. It's good to know because we're going to talk about the defense. Let's start off looking at Josh Allen's numbers, and then we're going to base our grades off of that. Josh Allen goes 30 of 51, throws for 270 yards, a 5.3 average, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, was sacked 3 times. He's a tough guy to bring down. That's really important. 79.7 rating. Let's talk about the Steelers' pass rush first. The Steelers finished the game with 8 quarterback hits. Okay, that's incredible. And then 3 sacks. TJ Watt with 2, Cameron Hayward with a 3rd.
That was almost a half a sack and 2.5. I wasn't sure if they were going to give TJ half on that one, but Hayward was definitely there first. But TJ helped it from not getting away. Sorry.
If Josh Allen is, let's say, a Tom Brady type quarterback, he's going to sit in the pocket.
They would have had 8 sacks.
They would have lit up the scoreboard, like
8 or 10.
The stacked, like the rolling numbers. Let's rate the pass rush, grade the pass rush, I should say. Bryan, we'll start with you. We'll go in the same order.
I thought the pass rush was absolutely phenomenal. I have one guy that I want to mention is Melvin Ingram III. I think he changes what they can do on that team by having a 3rd starter in there. So you mix and match and pull those guys in and out, move them around. He's playing on both sides in relief. He's playing early and often. He's getting to the quarterback. I thought they were great. I did not expect. I was afraid that sack record was going to fall this week. And it looked for a while that, all right, it very well could. But then they got it going. And also, not just the sacks. How many more sacks would we have had if the Bills weren't holding everybody? Highsmith would have had a sack. There was Ingram would have had a sack. There were so many sack opportunities.
Okay. So what was the grade again?
A.
All right, Dave, grade the pass rush.
Yeah, that sounds good. A sounds great. I mean, how great is it to where TJ Watt comes off the field and you're not overly concerned about it because you've got 2 other players that are also getting the job done. I'm not saying they're both TJ Watt, but what I'm saying is it's not, oh my goodness, what a fall off. That all 3 of them, fantastic job, constantly bringing the pressure. And they were held. I put a picture on Twitter, the touchdown that the Bills scored. The offensive, TJ Watt made it around the offensive line. He reached back and grabbed his shoulder, was the only reason Josh Allen was not sacked on that and threw that touchdown pass. And how that doesn't get called, I don't know. That one was, to me, the most egregious out of any of the missed calls, but that's just what they were doing. But I mean, and my dad asked me, is the Bills line that bad, or is the Steelers pass rush that good? To me, the Steelers pass rush is that good.
I agree. They were that's elite. Like that was an elite performance by the pass rush. Let me ask you all this because you all, Brian, especially Brian, and Dave, you too, you have mind for this stuff. Michael Beck was asking on Twitter, is this the best Steelers trio of pass rushers that we've ever seen, at least in the modern era? Think about the pass rushers. So we have Ingram, Highsmith, Watt. Has there been any trio that's been better? Either of you, Brian, Dave, whoever wants to go.
You know what? I'm going to say no, this isn't the best because that Blitzburg team had a lot of great pass rushers. You could throw Gilden and Chad Brown in the mix, along with the fact that you had Green and Lloyd.
Just from an edge perspective. So
you had three edges that so much so that you put them all. You want to even get them all three on the field at the same time.
Then no, I don't think there's another. If you're just talking straight edge rushers,
yes, just edge.
Then no, I can't recall anybody.
Yeah. Who was the third with Harrison and Woodley? Was there a third there for them? Was it
Higgins?
Was it Worlds?
Well, Worlds was there in 2010.
Yeah.
You had Higgins in there for a little bit because but
even then, that's not even comparable.
Yeah, this is really that good.
And
with
this is just one
being
game.
that good and the other two being that good. You know what I'm saying?
This is just one game.
Yeah.
TJ Watt's on pace for 34 sacks this year.
Yeah.
and it's and you know what? With that half, it should be.
If they would have given him that half,
it would be 42.
Yeah.
Tom Muir gives us $3, one for each total sack. Thank you, Tom. We appreciate it indeed. All right, so I give them an A. What else can be said? Yeah. But let's go to the secondary. The Steelers did surrender a lot through the air, 270 yards. But boy, I'll tell you what,
on 51 attempps, though.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. When you look at the numbers, I mean, pass breakups or pass defenses, Minka had 1.
Let's see.
Cam Hayward with 2, Ingram with 1, 7 total. Cam Sutton, my gosh, I feel like I could talk about Cam Sutton for an entire show, but grade the secondary in terms of the pass, the secondary, pass defense. There we go. Got it. Go ahead, Brian.
Nailed it.
I am giving this secondary an A. I have to. And the reason I have to give him this, I know it's very optimistic and I'm wearing my fan hat right now, but how much did they connect with the deep ball? 51 times throwing that ball, it's all that short stuff to Diggs and Sanders. Now I know he did overthrow Sanders, and that would have been disastrous if he doesn't throw over his head in the first half because Sanders was wide open there. But for the most part, they shut this team down. They changed how Josh Allen passes the ball. Because Josh Allen could go deep. We've seen him go deep early and often, and he was just going with this little dink and dunk stuff because he had no choice.
Yeah. They did limit the deep passes. Young Money Crew didn't do much. Dave, I can't stand Manuel Sanders, by the way. Let me just get that.
I hate that guy.
Talk about burning every bridge. I'm going to speak him as much as Antonio Brown. Anyways, Dave, go ahead and grade the secondary.
First, I do want to say this. Take this, national talking heads. How about a higher quarterback rating for Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger than for Josh Allen? Okay, 83.9 versus 79.7. And the thing is, they're like, oh, Allen had to throw the ball when they were no, he had more pass attempts in the first half than the second. He had 26 in the first, 25 in the second. So it wasn't that. They were throwing the ball like crazy the whole time. And the secondary, the thing that gave up the most for them, I'm going to give them an A, just before I forget to say that, was when the Steelers had the 10-point lead with 9 minutes left. I felt that they went too soft on their defense. And that's actually when they ran the ball against them even more because of how soft the Steelers went with their defense, because they were up 2 scores. I thought it was a little early. But next thing you know, my dad points it out to me, hey, 7 minutes came off the clock and the point margin is still the same after Boswell hits that 45-yarder. So I'm like, yeah, so that kind of helped. And then at the end, I know some people were really frustrated. You can't give up a 4th and 10 right there. Did you see where the secondary was set up? They were set up 15 yards deep. It would have been nice to just end it there because they only needed the one play, but they would rather give up 15 yards and prolong the game than let someone get past them and get the big score there. That was just the philosophy that they had based on the game situation. So when you look at some of those yards and some of those plays, that's something that yes, you don't like that, but that's the way that they were choosing to play it, not even from a player standpoint. Was pretty happy with I mean, everyone didn't play perfect. I mean, my goodness, it was week 1. But all in all, I thought they did a nice job.
What was your grade, Dave?
I said A.
Okay. I'm going to give him an A as well, maybe an A-. I'm leaning one way or the other. Jeffrey Benedict said this. I want to bring this up. He said, love the move to put Norwood in the nickel and keep Sutton outside, then bring Pierre in the dime outside and let Sutton play his old dime role. That was a great move. When I hear this type of talk, and he's not the only person that has alluded to some of this stuff, it's almost like, wow, it's almost like the Steelers know how to coach defense. Like, and they know their personnel. Yeah. And it just goes to show you that there's so many fans that do not trust this Steelers coaching staff at all to put players in the best position to succeed. I thought they did a great job. The Steelers secondary, better, but after one game, would you say better or worse than 2020? Bryan, what do you think?
I think better at this point. I have to say, I mean, they really took away the long stuff more than they did last year.
Dave, you agree, disagree? I mean, it seemed like they were doing like they did last year and trying to go at Cam Sutton, and he just kept making play. I mean, yeah, he gave up the touchdown, but my goodness, that was fantastic defense on that, and just an even better throw and catch if you think about it. So right now, I'm giving this advantage to 21.
It's early. The 4th down stop by Cam Sutton erases that touchdown for me. Like, that was such a heady play because he could have crashed down the line of scrimmage. Go ahead, Dave.
Exactly. But here's the other thing. And here's why Buffalo ran that play, and I don't blame them. If he was the only guy out there, and if the full back is able to block him, then that's a 20-yard gain, if not a touchdown. But Sutton not only did what he needed to do, he didn't allow himself to get blocked by that fullback and make the play. So when you say, oh, that was a terrible call by the Bills, it was designed right, but the fullback couldn't make the block on the only guy that he had to block, and then he's off to the races. So that's a fantastic play by Cam Sutton.
And Mike Tomlin said in the post-game press conference that they had noticed that the Bills like to do that fullback dive on short yardage situations, and that they had coached up that this would be something they would possibly do to. They know they're going to study that play, so they're be prepared for the kick out or the a play off of that fullback dive, and that's exactly what happened. Again, these guys get paid to coach, so. Tyler W. gives us $5. His defense put up a highlight reel against one of the best offenses in the NFL. The secondary stood firm. The doubters, including me, were silenced. Would you all say that the Buffalo Bills had one of the top offenses in the NFL?
They were supposed to, weren't they?
And they were, on paper.
Yeah. I mean, everyone was talking about Josh Allen as the MVP candidate, and he was the number 2 quarterback in all of fantasy football behind Mahomes and all of these things. So there was a lot of expectations there.
Not only that, but the fact that this was the number 2 offense in all of 2020, and it seems like they've grown so much since then. They didn't really lose anything. I thought this. I really think that this is going to be a juggernaut offense. I don't think that they're going to be bad. Just very interesting situation. And they did something really odd at the beginning of the game. They had one of their running backs, who everybody was counting on, Zach Moss, be a healthy scratch. So I thought that was really odd. And they brought Breida in.
Yeah. And as Darwin Nolan said in the live chat, they averaged 30.6 points per game last season. So holding them to 16 was pretty impressive. I do want to bring this up just because it's on the top of my head. Boy, some of the coaching decisions that the Bills made in the second half, I felt were very curious. We'll put it that way. Borderline idiotic. 4th and 8 going for it.
I'd have gone for that.
I wouldn't have.
The Steelers wouldn't have, but I would have.
The Steelers' offense hasn't done crap at that point. Make them drive the entire length of the field.
Well, they had wasn't that just after they kicked the field goal, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I see your point, but my point was it was too long for a field goal, and you had a chance of gaining, 15 yards for a punt if it goes in, 20 yards on a punt if it goes into the touchdown zone. So therefore, I understand if you think you've got the offense to do it. The fact that they threw it 30 yards down the field was a little curious, but that's what Ben Roethlisberger would have done.
Well, but then again, also the decision on 4th down to go for it, where Cam Sutton comes up and makes the play again.
Yeah.
I mean, you're giving the struggling Steelers offense, even at that point, you're giving them great field position, even if it's only at their 35. I think after the Cam Sutton stop, I believe they started at the 48-yard line, their own 48. Mm-hmm. But still, just really questionable decisions. I feel like the Bills are going to be looking back at this game and say, boy, did we screw the pooch. Bryan, do you agree?
Absolutely. I thought they were cocky moves. Very good coach, man. One of the smartest offensive coaches in the league, I think, is Sean McDermott. And Brian Daboll is a very qualified coach as well. I just thought that I thought they felt that they had this all along. And those were moves of a team that were quite cocky. And they underestimated what Pittsburgh could do.
All right. I guess according to lifelong fan 07, we need to smile more. It says, "Why do you guys look sad?" I'm not sad. I think we're all ecstatic right now. That
What do I need to do?
I was the only you know what
I am. There's one thing that has me sad that I'm going to call out right here, right now.
Okay.
Why in the world did Jeffrey Benedict not make a pick in the survivor pool?
He didn't make a pick.
He didn't make a pick.
I don't even know who I picked.
I'm trying to.
Find what? To me, that's absolutely amateur. I can't believe somebody would actually forget to do that. Yeah. I mean, gosh, Jeffrey, come on. Yeah. I need to life coach you, man.
Let's see. Pick Shiner got eliminated by picking the Jaguars.
Pick Shiner's out?
Pick Shiner is out.
I was rooting for that guy. I'm
trying to find Jeff. Where's Jeff? There you go. You have the same pick I have. You have the Rams later on.
Oh,
I think I picked Carolina. So I think I'm alive.
Are you in the first league, or did you not get into the second one?
I'm in the first league. Yes.
Okay, I got to find you now.
So I believe I went with the Panthers.
Yes, you went to the Carolina Panthers.
Who won? And so did the Cincinnati Bengals in overtime. The Bengals came back to beat the Vikings 27-24 in overtime
after Jordan Berry had a 65-yard punt. And then to get the Vikings the ball back in good position, and then they fumbled it away, and the Bengals scored.
Enough Jordan Berry talk. We don't want to bring that guy up. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You,
yeah, the rush defense. The Steelers, they carried the ball 25 times. Josh Allen had 9 of those. Some of them were designed runs, though. They rushed for 117 yards, 4.7 yards. A lot of that came right on that final offensive drive for the Bills. Guys, let's talk about the Steelers' rush defense graded out. Bryan, what do you think?
I'm giving them an A as well, because the big rushes were way at the end of the game when the Steelers were probably going to be protecting against the pass more, when you had Singletary, Devin Singletary going off a little bit towards the end. But that was stuff that I was not even concerned with, because most of the time, for the longest time, I think the leading rusher was Josh Allen for a while with 7 yards. They didn't do well at all. So that the rushing defense held them in check.
Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was 70 yards through 3 quarters, if you look at it that way. And just those couple at the end when they were, you don't want to give up that much yardage at one time. And that's why I didn't like that the Steelers were going so soft so early, because they were really giving up those couple runs. But you know what? It worked out for them. So why should I question it? So overall, I felt that for most of the game, the Bills could not run the ball, with the exception of Josh Allen being able to get out. So therefore, I'm gonna give it an A-, because which really is I'm knocking more the pass defense of allowing the quarterback to scramble on the non-design runs.
Okay, let's go to I'll give the rush defense a B, solid B. Just because Josh Allen is, when I think of the running game, I think of him and not a running back. So take that for what it's worth. Let's go to special teams now. Special teams, I want to just lump into one. You're giving a special teams grades. You have to think about the 75-yard return to open the game. You have to think about the block punt, scoop score, touchdown, Ulysses Gilbert III, and everything in between. We had a Jordan Berry-esque shank by Big Press, although he did follow that up with some other good punts. So Brian Anthony Davis, grade the Steelers' special teams as a whole.
So if we're taking all of that in consideration right away, you should go into the C zone. But I think we'll go with a C plus because Chris Boswell came up huge. That touchdown was a game breaker, and the 75-yard return from the Bills at the beginning only netted 3 points. So I'm going to say that everything else in between kind of pushes the arrow towards the plus more than just right down the middle. So we'll go C plus.
All right, Dave, what about you?
I'm going to go B, and it's because it would have been an A or an A plus because of everything else other than one, the opening kickoff, two, the last kickoff. I was frustrated. I mean, come on, Danny Smith. Why are you having Chris Boswell doing the short run up late in the game, trying to not just do a touchback after you've given up these yards? The one thing that when you went up 10 points with, on the last field goal, the last thing you wanted to do was give them a big return. So just let them start at the 25. And yet the philosophy was, let's see if we can do that. I didn't like that call as much as anything, but I'm not going to blame the players as much for that. So other than those couple returns, I mean, block punt touchdown, that's what won the game. When you think about it, that's what won the game. It changed the Cam Sutton play, then followed by that one on the next series. That's 2 4th down plays back to back that changed this game completely.
And if there's such thing as a 75-yard return that could turn into a positive somehow, the Steelers experienced that when they gave up a 75-yard return. The defense comes out and shuts them down 3 plays, and they're kicking a field goal. So not that I want to see a 75-yard return to start the game. The defense goes out and does that. I guarantee that gave them a little bit of optimism. They're starting to feel good about themselves in this matchup. Matty Peverill gives a $7.99 in dingo dollars. He said this win helps when it comes to playoff positioning, tiebreakers, particularly if we finish with 9 to 11 wins, plus a what the hell is he just talking
undefeated?
Plus a what?
Undefeated.
A perla of a punt block. Is he speaking Australian or something? I thought they spoke.
Yeah, Jeff needs to spend some time with them on that show as they do their slang, sling the slang. So
sling the slang.
Just nod and smile. That's what I do with the guys.
Yeah, just check out Touchdown Under. Okay, we have about 8 minutes left. I want to do game balls. So let's go ahead and you can pick on it's just one game ball this time. We're only giving out one game ball. It can be offense, defense, special teams, doesn't matter. And we're going to keep the rotation. Brian, go ahead. Just to piss off Dave.
Yes.
Of course, there's so many to give out, and there's some obvious ones. I'm going to go less obvious, and I'm giving a game ball to Trey Norwood, who I thought did a lot of things.
Whoa. Sorry, I'm surprised.
I thought he did a lot of things in this game to give that team confidence, and he was not a liability, so they could focus on other things. I know that's probably out of left field, but come on. From the cheap seats, let's give it to Trey.
I should expect nothing less from BJ Finney.
Yeah.
Yes. So at least he plays for the Steelers, right, Brian? All right, let's go to Dave. Who's your game ball?
Okay, my game ball, to me, there was 3 players, and Brian didn't take one of them, so you and I might have to cover all 3 of them. But it's Big 97. My goodness, that guy was all over the place. I mean, 2 passes defensed, a tackle for loss, a quarterback hit, a sack, 4 tackles, and he was just eating up blockers. Just anytime you wanted to see where, even TJ sack, like the strip sack with TJ, it's because he was Josh Allen went to step up in the pocket and Cam Hayward was there. So he had to go to the side and Watt comes from behind and gets him. That's why, sacks as a team is a really big, important thing. But I thought Big Cam stepped up and looked phenomenal today.
I'm going to go with Tom Muir, who gives us $2. The game ball goes to the $100 million man, TJ Watt, Trent Jordan. I mean, the dude signs a huge deal, and everyone's eyes are on him. What do? You go out and you make a game impacting plays is what he did. And don't think there's so many plays that he makes that are, it just goes as like maybe a half tackle, or maybe like a tackle for loss, but they're huge plays. TJ Watt, with no preseason, no team drills, nothing, went out and dominated. That's what I saw. He absolutely dominated. Let's go to Frodo Watt. I guess that's the long lost brother. $4.99. He said, bold prediction, TJ Watt wins league MVP and has the sack record, 24 sacks, 35 tackles for loss, 12 forced fumbles, and 50 quarterback hits. He yells at someone saved those numbers.
And
that's crazy.
And you know what?
Okay, go ahead.
Aaron Donald will still win Defensive Player of the Year.
Yes. I took it personally.
Awesome stuff brought this up. I still missed 2 of Cam's stats. He had a forced fumble, which unfortunately Josh Allen still recovered, and he had the fumble recovery on the TJ Watt strip sack. So, I mean,
you think that fumble recovery, did Cam come up with that ball?
Cam had the ball, yes. He was credited with that, according to the NFL media report.
Wait, no. I'm talking about when he was chasing down Allen.
Oh, Allen? Yeah.
Causes the fumble. The ball clearly is a fumble. Did he come up with the football?
I think he took it away from Allen when Allen was down. So, he muscled it away. If they wouldn't have been able to see that Allen got it, Cam would have come out of the pile with it. But I think that they could see that he got it. I don't blame him. Way to go for it.
I thought that was one that they could have maybe challenged if they felt that
Buffalo ran quick after that. They got up to the line and went.
Yeah.
So,
all right, let's do some final thoughts here. Bryan, Anthony Davis, what are your final thoughts for this game in week 1?
Wow, we had so many weeks to gear up for the Buffalo game. It seems like we have been talking about Bills Mafia, Josh Allen, the Steelers offensive line, the Steelers secondary, the lack of depth all over the place, TJ Watt's contract. It all came together. You just talked about TJ Watt, and he did the ultimate, hey guys, hold my beer, goes in, wrecks everything. Cam Hayward was missing Stephon Tuitt on the other side, and we talked about this on the preview the other day, and we said that this guy is the guy that is going to step up as well. And one guy we didn't give a game ball because I went all the way from left field was Cam Sutton.
Yes.
And Cam Sutton's a guy that we have been talking about the whole time. The Steelers got to bring in another cornerback. They just can't do it. They should have never gotten rid of Steven Nelson, blah, 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 blah. But here's the deal. Cam Sutton stepped up and showed that he belongs. This whole team has heard how they were going to lose to Buffalo. Everybody said it. People that believe in the Steelers even said it, except for Jeff, who is in the know. But the bottom line to the whole thing is, this is a team that believes. This is a team that has an us against the world mentality. Chase Claypool even said that the other day on our BTSC exclusive interview, that they have that mentality and they know what they have. They believe. We've got to start believing, and this could be special. So this is a win that to me was one of the most satisfying of my entire 40 plus years of watching the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I just have watched this movie over and over again, and this movie ends early on with a team like Buffalo winning. Not today. The narrative has changed. Let's change our narrative with it.
All right, let's get to Wilson's $5 tip. He says, game ball goes to Canada. The offensive play calling, play design, game plan, and corrections made the difference. Cam is close second. He was huge. Yeah, I never thought about giving it to the offensive coordinator, but maybe you could. Dave, go with your final thoughts.
All right, I've got a lot of final thoughts. So this is, I just suck. Take this in. Take it all in, Steelers fans, because, Bills Mafia started leaving the stadium when the Steelers went up 10 with 9 minutes left. People were starting to leave. Okay. Then when Boswell hit the field goal later on, they poured out of that place. We heard them talking smack for the longest time. And guess what? The Steelers came in. I mean, it wasn't if they were going to win. The question was about how much they were going to win by. Was the question. And that's just how they felt that they ended up with a perfectly easy game to start the season. And it wasn't. I said it before. I'm going to say it again. if the Steelers could actually pull off this game, which was one, I mean, when you go golfing, Jeff, and you look at the card and it tells you, you've got the easiest hole and you've got the most difficult hole as you go through, and they rank them. This was one of the more difficult games on the Steelers schedule.
This was like the 2 or 3 handicap hole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying it the right way. Or I was afraid I was going to say it wrong. That's why I said it the way I did. That was this game, and they did it. And they didn't even score in the first half. They didn't even score in the first half, but the defense did the job, kept them in this game. And at the end of the game, when they were trying to, hold on to a lead, they were bend or don't break and gave up 3 and not 7. So, I mean, if not, you're still talking about a 10-point game. There's a lot to be excited about. I wasn't sure if the Steelers would bring it together enough to win this game. I felt that the defense would do the job. I didn't know if they could get enough points otherwise, and they found a way to do it. Now look out, because now that rest of the NFL are going to be looking for you. They're going to be trying to exploit that offensive line as a weakness. You've got to come out ready to work, ready to go, and let's go get the win at home next week.
Well said, gentlemen. I'm going to go ahead and say that I think Ron Chess put it well. He said, he's been a fan for 50 years. He said, dedicate this win to Tunch Ilkin.
Yes.
That's a good way to finish the show today. Tunch would be smiling ear to ear, I'm sure. And all I can think about is him with the "get your bags packed for going to Denver" from Indiana. It's such a great line. Yeah. So rest in peace, Tunch Ilkin. This wins for you there, my friend. Even though we never met, we all felt like he was part of the family. So thanks for listening to a part of this. Make sure you follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and we will see you next week after they play the Raiders, the Steelers and Raiders at Heinz Field. Take it easy. We'll see you next week.